Hello everyone, my name is Ricardo Cruz and I'm a student from Adolfo Ibáñez University. This is my video for the CEMS application. Today I'll be answering the following question. How will climate change affect globalization and international business during the next 10 years? So first, I think it's important to understand what climate change is and what has happened in the last few years. One of the definitions of climate change is a rise in average surface temperatures on Earth. And in the last few years, we have seen an increase in storms, heat waves, rising sea levels, melting glaciers, and warming oceans. Climate change is a problem for all citizens around the world, including environmental damage, pandemic risk, food insecurity, energy transition, and biodiversity loss. The role of international business as an integral part of our environment is to take care of this situation. Businesses in the future need to be sustainable because consumer behavior is changing because of the importance of this has for the environment. The new generations have developed a whole new mindset, taking care of the world. This perspective means that, for example, people are changing their consumer behavior to be more conscious about what they buy in stores, looking to move more into local businesses, looking for change in consciousness of the big international enterprises. Companies will be struggling if they don't adapt. Businesses also need to be sustainable because of the governments. So companies are going to be treated maybe with bigger, heavier taxes or closing because of the new laws and regulations. So the enterprises would need to adapt in the greener way to sustainable models. Now I'm going to present a Coca-Cola example, bringing it to the climate change, which affects, of course, globalization and business at the same time. This is an hypothetical story of Coca-Cola Company in an environmental social problem brought by climate changing conditions. So the Coca-Cola executive from USA is sitting at his desk, going through his email. The first letter the executive gets, is from a customer about the disappointment of Coca-Cola because the writer correspondent read about the carbon emissions, expliciting that Coca-Cola was the world's leading plastic waste producer, generating 2.9 tons of plastic waste per year, and about 200,000 plastic bottles per minute. And he was waiting for more action for the company. The executive was worried because there were clients that didn't enjoy Coca-Cola, and for good reasons. And he asked himself how many other clients would think the same. The second email he got was from a Mexican supplier saying, "We can't supply more sugar cane because climate change has ruined the crop in our locations and there are not enough quantities for your production." So the executive was worried about the supply chain, especially for the sugar ingredient they need to make for their product. The third email comes from the government in the EU and said that Coca-Cola Company has to reduce their emissions in order to comply with the new laws that we have agreed in the COP26. This is reaching zero net emissions by 2040. So the executive was worried about their production, use of energy, and the legal aspect because even though the company was reducing their emissions, they needed to focus more on this problem. After reading all his email, the executive knew that he needed to make something. He thinks that his next job is to gather his team and build a plan for access and work on these globalization problems. So in this case, we can see a company. An example, the executive takes awareness because of the external factors of globalization that are occurring in the surroundings. The probabilities of this to occur is not so far because we are seeing different problems with food insecurity and the global climate change compromises by governments, the new regulations and customers demanding changes are now here. So the businesses would have to change in bigger steps because customers are demanding that companies do something about climate change. Enterprises are going to run into problems on their supply chain by natural disaster, and government's regulations is going to force companies to act on climate change to reduce their carbon emissions. So it's important to make changes in these aspects. The available information on climate change gives the new generation a different mindset about how best to take action to change a number of things. For example, technological advances in food, everyday living, energy and transportation, and information systems. These things create a base for innovation, economic integration, and changes for the good of our civilization in order to improve our global climate change conditions. Now it is important to ask ourselves the question on how we want to make climate change affect us in 10 years more. So this way, we and future international businesses can be aware of how to do things better for the environment and for ourselves.